Great. Yeah, thanks. So I just wanted to kind of introduce my colleagues and my collaborators, Natalie Dieterich, who is, you know, fifth year at doing her PhD at Princeton University. She is one of my favorite composers to work with. She's written me a guitar concerto, which was for both classical and electric guitar. We'll go into that. And then she's also part of my solo guitar virtuosity project called Unbound, which I'll also get into. And she also written a solo guitar piece. And also, I want to, Natty, do you want to say hi? So people can see.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here. I'm really excited to talk about the process of collaboration with JIJI. It's so nice to be able to collaborate with other people, but also collaborate with your like really good friends. It's a really meaningful process, and friendship can evolve from that, but it's really cool when it kind of comes before and you decide to work on a project together. So can't wait to talk about it.
And fun fact, we also lived together and we didn't kill each other. So that's always a good sign that you can work together. Those are one of like good things that I always have, like when I work with the composers, like, do we get along? Do we have a good vibe? It's really important for me. And then I want to introduce you to my fiance, soon to be my husband. I'm so sorry, that's so cheesy, but Gulli Bjornsson, who is an associate professor of electronic music composition at Kansas University, and he's Icelandic. And yeah, he's also one of my favorite composers to work with. He's written me an electric guitar piece, a classical guitar piece, and we also play in a duo together. Why don't you say hello?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Excited to see the labors of this competition. I think it's just an awesome thing here, getting all these composers and guitarists to work together. Yeah.
Gulli also, he writes music using electroacoustic music. So he incorporates Max into guitar and other compositions, which I think would be super exciting to look at. Okay, so I'm kind of going to be like the interviewer, if that's okay. Interviewer, does that? Yeah. And then I'm going to ask a bunch of questions to Natty and also Gulli. But if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to, raise your hand over Zoom, and we're more than happy to kind of share everything with you. Okay, so we're gonna start with Natty, and we're gonna talk about this electric and classical guitar concerto. And I actually wanted to kind of ask you before we share the video, Natty, how did this project come into light? And it's so funny because it's called Light Beloved. So tell us, how did this project happen?
Yeah, so I submitted an orchestra piece that I had written to a competition called the First Music Competition with the New York Youth Symphony, and was chosen as one of the winners as that competition. And as part of that, I think they were kind of trying to expand their efforts beyond like the standard orchestra setup. So they wanted to look for a soloist to include for a concerto. So they reached out to Concert Artists Guild, correct? And yes. And they put JIJI forward, and there were a few different winners for this competition, and JIJI got to pick from the list before I even really knew that this was happening. And she saw my name, and seeing as we were living together at the time, good friends and wanting to work together, it was kind of like a dream come true that this came together in such a way.
Great. And why did we decide that we should do a classical and electric guitar?
Well, it's, there's like, it's hard to choose between, because you have the facility to do both, and there's not a lot of repertoire for both. I don't know, are there many by female composers? I don't think there's many either by female composers. So I figured it'd be a really cool thing to do, and also to explore like two completely different styles of playing, and to be able to like switch in between, it gives a lot of different orchestral possibilities between the intimacy of something that is meant for a smaller room, smaller settings, intimate concerts, to orchestrate that in a certain way, and then to have the power of the electric guitar where you can really use the orchestra in a super bold way. So a lot of factors went into that decision.
Great. And when you were writing this piece, how did you go about, approaching this both classical and electric guitar? Because like the possibilities are limitless, right? It's like then you have the acoustic, very intimate instrument. Now you're opening can of worms, which I think for electric guitar, because now you have pedals and effects and everything. So how did you go about kind of like structuring or just getting the mood in general for the piece?
Yeah, so that's there's like so many ways to go about that question. I knew I wanted to do something pretty intricate and rhythmic, and given like the practical consideration of the orchestra, smaller forces would be able to make that happen with more facility, and that works well with using an acoustic guitar. We had some amplification, right, but it was still light and had to be treated delicately with the orchestra. So giving it more of like a chamber feel setting was a really nice way to let the guitar shine and keep the other instruments to a minimum. And then, so I really wanted to like give it these nice intimate moments. I have this kind of rhythmically wonky sort of thing happening in the opening that turns into like a very lush section, very lyrical with some harmonics, which I took inspiration from one of the Villa-Lobos etudes. JIJI and I were talking a lot in trying to put this together. I was like, okay, well, I need some inspiration for kind of the way that that an acoustic guitar or classical guitar works versus how one would play an electric. And so I asked for some suggestions. So I got some great Takemitsu and Villa-Lobos. I have like a whole playlist here of like the more classical side of things. Gina Stara as well. Yeah. Paganini, and even some arrangements of like piano things. So and I know I'm a pianist originally, so I can see how those changes would translate into the guitar. So I got a lot of repertoire suggestions for the classical side of things. And I also started to think about more like rock guitar solos, electric guitar. And I was thinking back this is kind of funny, but I was thinking back to my days of playing Guitar Hero and just like how great a lot of those solos were. So go back and listen to a bunch of that repertoire and be like, oh, these are really cool, like contours and sort of like licks and motives and things. So I would sort of pick up little nuances of what the electric guitar could do that would be different.
Awesome. So I think this is a great moment to share the video, and which I'll do. So I kind of feel like we can do, like, even though it's not movements, we'll do a section of the first movement, and then we can show the electric guitar. So we'll just listen to a portion of, yeah, we'll do this. We'll do the video.
And are you going to share?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
going to share. What happened to Zoom? Sorry, I am like, I'm so bad at Zoom now. It's really funny. Okay, here we go. Give me 2 seconds.
Make sure you click the share video, share sound thing.
Yes. Okay, can somebody do the share screen, because this is a new computer. Now the settings are wonky. Natalie, do you have the video? I just have to reopen.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want me to just stop before the transition?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that for sure. have it queued up. Great. Here's my playlist over here, going abruptly from etudes to Black Sabbath and
Nice.
etc. So that's a little taste of the first half. I don't know if anyone has any kind of questions or anything.
Yep. There was a lot of like mixed meters, wasn't that? Wasn't that a lot of mixed meters? I remember.
Yeah,
like-
it's a lot of time changes, and I also am trying to like change the way that those time changes feel, and change what the actual beat sounds like, like
Yeah.
which, play around with that.
So fun. Yeah, so maybe we can move on to the electric guitar stuff, like
Should I do the
maybe
transition into it? Like
yeah, sure. I always feel nervous about that. I'm always like, oh.
I think
Yeah.
you do a great job with
Okay,
that part.
great.
So
Thanks.
let me see if I can find a good spot.
Socks, underwear, and t-shirts are the
I am so sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Oh my God, that's
No,
terrible.
it's okay. Well, you can actually stop sharing. My video is working, and then I can perfect, because then I have this. This is, I mean, I hate ads. It's so funny.
That was the end of like the last part of the acoustic guitar though. So
yeah. So let's go right into the end of the solo guitar stuff. So a lot of the things was like, you wanted to kind of do this like cadenza moment, right? For like a soloist thing. So I had to write my own cadenza, which was really fun. So we'll just go from there and then to the end. Cool. So there was that. So fun. Yeah, this was like a really, really fun project to do. And, she did such a wonderful, amazing job. And I had so much fun learning this piece. I mean, we got 2 performances and we got to do at Stern Auditorium at Carnegie, which was like one of my dream concert halls to ever play in. So that was like really absolutely epic. And since we're talking about electric guitars, and we'll kind of like move on. And I'll come back to our Abigail piece actually, but I want to kind of segue into Gulli. And so Gulli writes these amazing, electroacoustic music, which I think is really exciting and cool. And it also gives like flexibility of not traveling with pedals. I'm very into the digital, kind of this automated, effects and everything, because I'm an able-to person. But I wanted to open the floor to Gulli, and like, what got you interested in using these effects, and what are some of the liberties that you think you have with writing with Max and things like that. So, and how you use this tool to write music.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'll also say JIJI writes really awesome electric guitar music with Ableton, so check that stuff out. But yeah, so I studied classical guitar for many, many years, came to the States to do that, and I then took film scoring and a laptop ensemble class, and I just sort of like started drifting towards composition. And I remember this moment where I was able to host a VST plugin called Dietterich, which is like a guitar pedal emulator inside Max. And my teacher showed me how you can like move these dials, and it was just so exciting to me that like I could write pieces with like a timeline. It's almost like if you have an amp and your pedal board, and you could like move all the dials very specifically over time. And I thought that was really fascinating because I I love Sigur, I love the Mars Volta, I love like long build-ups and these sort of things. And I was like, ooh, I can kind of realize that here. And this was kind of my first big piece that I wrote for guitar and Max. But the thing was that you originally actually asked me for classical guitar and backing track piece. And then I wrote this piece, and then we ended up changing it because I think it was kind of your manager who was like, hey, you should you should play this on electric for the premiere. So then I came in and added this max patch, and there's like a part in the piece where this delay comes in that like really saturates the sound of the guitar. It's very simple in terms of the effect, but I really think it kind of elevated the first movement of that I had these effects, and I really like making my guitar sound not like a guitar. I think that's always what I'm trying to do. I'm always trying to make it sustain and sound like all sorts of thingies. Yeah.
Great. So I guess like just to kind of ask you, what does Demar Lisa mean, and what were you trying to capture that?
Yeah, so it means dim waves rise. It's from a poem by an Icelandic poet called Jonas Hallgrímsson. He would sail in the 1800s from Copenhagen in Denmark to Iceland frequently, and it's kind of a long sail on a wooden ship back then, I think. And it was kind of a scary trip. And he wrote this poem where he was just like talking about like this desperate desire to see land. He's like stuck on this ship, and he feels like the waves are surrounding him, and he doesn't want to like plunge into the ocean. He just like really wants to see land. And I'd had this experience swimming in a lake in Finland a few years ago where I swam and it got dark, and it's really interesting seeing water when it's black, and at blackout it just kind of looks like oil and you can't see anything, and there's this like increase of paranoia, and you kind of just want to get out of there. So in this piece you start, I think, at a kind of like a happy place, and then you kind of plunge into water and paranoia starts creeping in, and then you're sort of trying to get out of it. So there's a little programmatic element to it there. Yeah.
It's so funny. Every time I play this piece, there's somebody who always comes. It's like, that was super scary. And there's so many people actually. It's like, I nearly drowned, and that was traumatic. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I'm like triggering PTSD.
I know. It's so funny. So I mean, I feel bad, but it is what it is. Sorry, but I think they liked it. So this is the Maro Teresa, and yeah. Okay, so then I will move on to the transition, which I think is super cool. Okay, so this kind of goes, that thing was like, the paranoia starts creeping, and I think this is super creepy. And it goes and it fades and it fades and fades and fades. I love this videographer, Evan Chetman, who is also an IU graduate and who also did Natalie's video. I mean, that's the only videographer I work with because like he's amazing and like he totally gets like every music that I record with him. He's like, yes, I got you. So it was epic. I mean, I forgot like the breathing part gives me so much anxiety. I mean, when I'm like
Yeah.
playing it, I actually like forgot like it is pretty freaking intense. Wow. I mean,
Yeah,
I forgot how intense this piece
I,
was.
I also, I mean, well, this is one of the, I've actually, myself, I've also played this piece a couple times, but like playing that second movement, it's so fun because I just got these like three chords and these sort of rhythms, and it's like a boxed passage and kind of just like go nuts and just strum and do. And you added tons of stuff there, Gigi, when we
Yeah.
were working together playing through it. That like it's not really notated, and when I play it now, I copy what you did
Yeah, I
because
do go,
it was way better than
wow.
what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, these little like things. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So actually, that's the piece. Does anyone have any questions regarding what you saw? So this is all through digital effects. There's no analog pedals. Everything is going through the computer. It's going through the sound card. Does anyone have any questions about this before I move on back to Natalie and our next piece? Don't
Hi.
be shy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. Just going through. Yeah. So I started working with Max about a year ago at the University of Louisville. They have like a couple classes on computer composition, and I had a question actually. I'm curious, how do you start with the composition? Do you start generally with like the sheet music and the kind of traditional compositional elements, or do you kind of start from like the software side and the effects elements? I'm just curious about your process.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So this piece, because I wrote it originally as a classical guitar piece with a backing track, it was very much I wrote the piece, and then when it turned into an electric guitar piece, I thought like, okay, what can I do? And I added this polyrhythmic delay. It's like a multi-tap delay where I can really set the fade times for each delay really specifically and like fade them in and fade them out. It just gave this really nice sound when you did these cross string arpeggios, like resonating arpeggios. The guitar sort of started to just like resonate into one composite sonority. So that fascinated me afterwards, but normally I don't work like that. Normally I think like I need to have like that idea for what the piece is and what I want to do, and then I think of some cool sounds that I try to connect with it in some way. I often take inspiration from some experience I've had in nature, and I try to connect it into some sort of audio visual experience. So there usually is a video accompanying this piece actually when JIJI plays it. But yeah, I've learned, at least with time, that it's good to sort of do it simultaneously. I feel like that's been most successful.
Amazing. Cool. Any other questions?
So regarding the cinematography and the video, I'm in high school right now. So is there any like budget ways or anything I can like easily make a video with, or are there any resources I can find?
Can I hop in and say something?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. We will talk about this in August a little bit, because creating a very convincing video of your competition video is important. What JIJI had is like artwork, and you guys should absolutely think about how you're engaging with the world, and putting your stuff out on social media in the same context of what JIJI is doing, but for the competition, we will go through some basics on how to make a really good video in audio. So just think of that.
With regarding audio, Gulli, do you have any suggestions?
Well, yeah, I'm very much a believer that like our computers are so powerful now, and you can buy a decent mic and like one of these Scarlett boxes, and you can do pretty good recordings on your own. So one thing that I'll say that Kunal, that might be helpful is it's very good to record the audio first and then basically dub as you do the video. Like it just makes everything so much easier. And a lot of the videos that you see on YouTube, you might think somebody's playing, but they got a boombox in the corner and they're syncing to it, because it allows for just easier and more budget friendly.
This is called
way.
lip syncing,
Lip syncing,
like most
yes.
music. Yes. Finger
Um,
syncing or whatever. But yeah, you get those like 3 angles and you have liberties to make funny faces or look like you're really like a rock star.
Yeah, and it allows you to have really high quality audio. So I think that's one thing that I would say, if you're trying to do something yourself, you might experiment doing the audio first and then trying to do a video like that. It can be really successful, I think.
Nice.
Awesome. So I kind of want to shift back to the classical guitar stuff. So this is my most kind of like headachy, but also super exciting project that I've been working on for the past 3 years. And I've asked 8 composers who are really good friends. One of the really most important things for me to work with a composer, I really rarely cold call somebody. I rarely work with somebody who I haven't made any relationship with, because I think it's really important for me to have like a personal connection with everyone that I work with. So, so I know that's a little bit controversial. I get a lot of scores here and there, but I would like to get coffee with you and always like, I want to know you. What's your deal? It's really important that I vibe with you. So I asked 8 composers who are also really good friends of mine to each write a virtuosic guitar piece, which is a solo piece, and solo guitar. And it was like coming out of COVID, I was just like, I just played way too many video games. I was so rusty, and I really wanted to push myself back into shape. And like, also like, what does virtuosity mean, right? Because like as a soloist, this title has always followed me. And I actually had like conflicting, I guess, emotions with that word. So I played the Junister, I played the Paganini. So I was just like, well, I kind of want to do it on my terms. And I asked these brilliant composers to thank you, Gulli. And I've asked them to write what they think is a virtuosic word virtuosity is. So it was interesting. Everyone had such different answer to that. Like one said rhythmic complexity and also like emotional vulnerability as a form of virtuosity, which is so crazy to me. It's like, she asked me, is like, oh, whenever you go on stage, don't you feel vulnerable? It's like, yes. So I'm going to play with that idea. It's like, that's a terrible idea, but okay, I thought we were friends. But it's so cool. The piece is like, you never feel grounded. And I feel like for the 10 minutes I'm on stage, like I want to puke my brains out. But it's an amazing piece. And when you do it, and it feels like incredible, euphoric high thing. And somebody just did straight up, plain old, fast notes. Gulli did a lot of notes, so many notes. God damn it. And Natalie, on the other hand, did this beautiful, super idiomatic guitar thing. And I want to talk about that. Unfortunately, I just recorded this and I don't have a video for you, but the video is coming out. So we are only going to share the score, if that's okay, Natalie, right? You have the score. Can you share the score?
Yeah, I have the score.
And yeah, so Natalie, what did you think? Why did you choose your answer of the virtuosity? And can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's so yeah, this piece is like, it's definitely not like, because it is idiomatic in a way, it's not like tricky where you would have to do a bunch of stretches or, I really wanted it to fit in the hand. And I treated it almost like an etude where I focused on writing in campanella style, which JIJI can speak to better than I can. But the point is I really wanted to create these lines where the notes could resonate on different strings and resonate for as long as possible. And my music often has a lot of time signature switches and things like that. So I was trying to find a line between lyricism and kind of rhythmic ambiguity. And the piece is almost like a challenge, I think, to the performer to find the line between where to be expressive and where to really just emphasize the groove. And I think JIJI finds that line and interprets it really, really well.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
And I'll just
actually, I do have the video. It's a live recording. Should we share the live recording? But actually, okay. So then let's do that. Because I think it's so important for you to hear this. So give me 2 seconds. It's really beautiful. Can you talk a little bit more about the piece? Like what I think you should talk about the personal thing. What was the inspiration behind it?
Okay, so you mean like the full inspiration? Okay. Yeah, so what we tell a lot of people is that we have this friend, this mutual friend named Abigail, and the real story is that she is this video game character in this game that we play together, and this piece kind of embodies the personality of this character. She's like this ghost, but is also like a fighter, and just has this really like bold, brave spirit and attachment to like her sister, and it's just like it's this really loving story. And this piece is just kind of meant to resemble her character in this game that JIJI and I have spent a lot of time playing, and it's a way that we kind of bond from afar because we live so far away from each other. So it was nice to be able to write something to just kind of reflect that a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a great game. It's so good. It's so
Don't
good.
starve if you want to play.
Yeah, Don't Starve Together. It's one of my favorites. Here we go. Okay, I want to stop right there because the album is coming out and I want you to get excited about the album. Oh, it's so there. I just finished recording it. I just finished it June 29th. It's so beautiful. Like Natalie has one of my favorite like harmonic languages. I think she just like, isn't it so beautiful? Can we just do a little applaud? Okay. Do you have any questions for Natalie? Should we look at the score tiny bit? Can we look at the score? I do want to look at the score.
Yeah, I'll bring that up just so people can get a sense. I do have like some fingerings in here. So you can see like right from the start, really, I'm looking for this kind of resonant sort of gesture as much as possible. And when I was writing this piece, I'm not a guitarist. I have taken like a few lessons, but I think as a composer, if I'm working with an instrument so intimately like this, that has all these like complicated kind of string limitations and rules, I found it to be really helpful to get my hands around the instrument, especially in a piece like this, because I could find these chord shapes all on different different strings, different frets, and just figure out how I could create lines from them, figure out what open strings I wanted to use throughout the piece, and how I wanted things to carry, how I could create different lines from different registers as well. And as a violinist, I had a little bit of an understanding of like, how strings work, even though the intervals are different. But again, getting my hand around it really allowed me to understand what I was writing and know that basically most of it was possible, because if I could do it super slowly, JIJI could probably do it much quicker.
I don't know about that, but I try. It's so beautiful, and it fits so nicely, and it's like really fun to play. Actually, you guys should totally reach out to Natty. I mean, I think our exclusivity thing is over. We always have that thing. I'm sure you guys know about this sometimes when you,
I never know with COVID anymore.
yeah, it was
When anything's
COVID,
over.
and you have this like kind of this promise, like some people do a year, some people do since the album comes out. It took me a while to get this album ready, but you should play this piece. And this piece was also the audition piece for Yale for 2 years ago or something, right? It was really
Yeah.
exciting to hear everyone's like interpretation on this piece.
Yeah,
I
one
would
thing-
like to. Oh,
Oh, sorry. I was gonna chime in there. Oh, the score just went away. But there's like a really important thing that you did there, where you were putting the string indications for the notes. Because I was looking at some of the measures, and without the string indications, I would have probably played it completely differently. You can look at measure 48 with that fourth, like that G on the fourth string. I might have done it open. So it's really cool to see how you were thinking of these specific resonances, very very particularly on the guitar, and like that's really important to put those string numbers in there. Yeah.
and I think I just kind of picked that up from violin, because I know like if I want a specific timbre, I'm going to have to be really specific about the string and everything, or else people are going to make a certain choice and it might not be that the same choice. So the more specific that you can be, especially even in the beginning, I do say campanella style, but I didn't figure that was enough to carry through, and I thought it was important to, like, even here we have repeated notes, one open, one not. So
Yeah.
even small details like that. And I did just want to say about the exclusivity period. If you are trying to negotiate with, like, working with a composer, it's important to have that. It's important to, it's important for you to be able to carry the work in its original form. And I wanted to, respect JIJI's time for however long that she wanted to have that. And that's a conversation to have, but I think it's important for the OG person to be able to play it first for a little bit.
Yeah. I also have a rule. It's like, I just don't just do premieres. I also try to perform this during my season. So I perform this like a lot, which is so great. It's like, it really helps. Yeah, which you should always help your composer friends. Okay, so thank you, Natty. We're gonna come back to Q&A. I'm gonna talk about Gulli's piece. Yes, Dinyandi. Let's talk about Dinyandi, Gulli. So can you talk about what Dinyandi is and what's happening in the piece, what you were really focusing on, and then we'll just show a little snippet of it.
It is really spectacularly beautiful waterfall in the north, in the West Fjords, the northwest of Iceland. I'd never seen it, but until like, what is it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, that JIJI and I went up there for a recording session, and we drove there on the way back, and I was just like so captivated by this waterfall, because it's really cool. You can like walk straight up to it, and there are these like other waterfalls, like they're smaller but also really beautiful, and I just couldn't like, it was so ingrained in me at that point that as I was composing the piece, this piece had to be about this waterfall, I think. And I took a long time just improvising on the guitar, trying to find some arpeggio-y pattern that felt really nice, and I felt I could play fast. And I came up with this PIM triplet thing that sort of repeats the bottom note and the top note when it goes, and then through that I felt like I could create these asymmetrical patterns and move through this progression that sort of masked the way the waterfall looks a little bit, because when there's these like different subsections of splashes as it comes down this mountainside, that were like, they're really similar but asymmetrical. So that was like my starting off point, and I then sort of just based it loosely on this feeling I had thinking of this waterfall.
And lots of arpeggios. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Let's.
I love arpeggios.
Okay. Let's just listen to this piece a little bit, and yeah. the piece goes, and it's epic. Because we are running out of time. So sorry. The album is coming out this winter. So actually, did you have any revisions?
To this piece?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, you know about this. Yeah, I mean, I've heard you play this many times in concerts, and I think it's a little bit of this thing where like you hear yourself, you hear your own voice, and you get really self conscious about it. I feel like I'm like that when I hear my own music too. I'm like I get really self conscious, and there was just this part of this piece that I felt just came off a little bit cheesy, and I think the piece was a little bit like not so coherent in terms of what I wanted to express. So I rewrote this middle section of this piece completely, and pretty dramatically different actually from this video recording. So the new version of this is what JIJI plays in concerts now, and it will be on your album, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I'm gonna just wrap up a few things as a performer perspective. I do like going back and forth. I always try to accommodate what the composers wants to do. So if they are more like, here's a piece, play this, and I'll do it. If there's a composer who's like, I want you to be part of the process, I'll be like, okay. I do think it's really important that you accommodate your fellow colleagues. And I think that was like a beauty about, just like this working relationship. And there are some of the things that I try to change, as a performer to make it work. Sometimes I might omit a few notes, but I really try. Okay, I really try. I try to respect the composer's wishes. I think there's one piece that I really just couldn't, but this composer was like really staying on their ground. It's like, no, I'm not gonna change the tempo. And I was like, okay, here's 6 months of me trying to make this piece work, which is yeah, I mean, you should know this composer. He's brilliant, but really stubborn. Chris Osnios. He's a really good friend, so it doesn't matter. He's a friend, but he's difficult. So but that piece came out super well. You know what I mean? Because like if he didn't stay on his ground, then it would have been a totally different feel. So I'm glad that he was just like, you're not changing these notes and you're not changing these tempos. So I was like, okay, here goes my 6 months, but it was really fun. We have 3 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? I've been talking really fast. And yes, Ben. Hi, it's so good to see you. Long time no see.
Yeah, exactly. Likewise, I'm even wearing my GFA shirt.
Oh, I can't see it. I don't have a GFA t-shirt. I wish I got a GFA t-shirt.
Yeah, of course. Oh my goodness. Maybe there's still some spares. But yeah, because we've got a couple minutes left, I have a question for you, Natalie and Gulli. And I think that one of the themes I'm observing today is about relationships. And so that definitely strengthens the passion that you have for the music and for the collaboration. And so to kind of segue things for the competition and what we're doing here with Twisted Spruce, I was wondering if all three of you could maybe give a little bit of advice on tips for establishing a really positive musical relationship, especially for the first time.
Be nice. Sorry, that just blurred out. Like, okay, but I will shut up now.
Yeah, I mean, be kind. Always be kind. But I definitely be open-minded. If somebody's suggesting something, if you're the player and you're like, oh, how do I do this? Like, keep at it. It might just take a little bit of figuring out, but like if it's possible and the vision of the composer is there, like it can be really cool. Just like JIJI was saying with this piece by Chris Osniks, that was just so hard. The piece is kind of amazing because like she pulled it off, and likewise, I think sometimes this was in the electric guitar piece I wrote for JIJI. Like I'd written these kind of fast arpeggio things, and it didn't really work with the distortion, and then JIJI was just kind of improvising at it, and I was like, that sounds awesome. So just be open-minded both ways, and then I think it could be some good things can come out of that.
Yeah, on that point, I think there's a few things to keep in mind when looking for collaborators. Common interest or common goal. You want to like have this be in like the same ballpark to start with, but also at the same time being open to being pushed in new directions. So I had this big collaboration with someone over in Europe, and we were so on the same page about the vision, which was great. But he was really pushing me outside of the box of what I thought I was able to do as a composer. And I had a really difficult time because he's not a musician. So he was asking for things and not understanding how complicated they were and how difficult or impossible I thought they were to accomplish. But like JIJI was saying about her collaborator, he stood his ground and it made me figure it out. And it's been transformative experience for me in how I feel that the possibilities of what I can do and how I can write. So common goals, but also like sometimes working through like something that's frustrating to a good end is like can be a really beautiful growing experience for people.
I think we're at time. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Natty. Thank you, Gulli.
Thanks, everyone. It's been great.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.